Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join us for the Elevate Finance Virtual Summit, sponsored by Tipalti. My name is Anand Mishra, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Tipalti. So a few housekeeping items before we start. So all participants are muted during the event. There is no dial-in and audio is only through your computer. Please submit your questions via the Q&A section that you see on the bottom of your screen. And you can join our live group chat to network with the attendees during the event. You can also adjust your slide and screens on your console, and you can do that by using the full screen or the minimize window options. And please complete the survey before leaving the event. Your feedback is greatly appreciated by Tipalti, and view our resource center for more content from both Tipalti and our partner TeamPay. We will also have a few polling questions and would appreciate you filling them out. This will help us improve our events by better understanding the needs of the attendees. And the first of the polling questions is up now. You have 30 seconds to respond, and it will remain there for 30 seconds. And so what interested you about attending this webinar? It's a multiple choice question. Okay, thank you for answering the question, and let's move on. So just to provide you a quick background before we start, so we've run these Elevate Finance Summits, which were on-site events over the past few years across various cities in the country, and had an excellent response from the attendees. And the goal of these events is to get finance professionals together in a small and intimate setting, talk about the challenges, and hear from folks like yourselves on how they are scaling and modernizing their financial operations. The one difference this time around is due to the shelter-in-place order, we've decided to change this event to a virtual format. And when the situation improves, hopefully soon, we will return to the on-site events. So let's kick it off. So here is the agenda for today. After a quick round of introductions, I will touch upon a few of the challenges that the discipline of finance faces today. After that, I will hand it over to Scott Olson, Tipalti's Director of Customer Marketing, who will interview our expert panelist, Courtney Santry, Controller at Sensei. Courtney will share her story and provide insights into how she has automated and modernized their finance operations. We will also hear from Niels Schweisen, Account Executive at TeamPay, and TeamPay is one of our key partners and provides procurement solutions. This will be followed by a live product demo by our Senior Solution Consultant, Vida Izadi. And as a reminder, please enter your questions via the Q&A section at the bottom, and we will answer them towards the end. So the role of finance has broadened over the past decade, and this is not new to anyone. Beyond the core responsibilities of accounting, bookkeeping, financial reporting, FP&A, closing the books, finance leaders are playing a prominent role in company-wide strategy in mergers and acquisitions, globalization, development and improvement initiatives across the company, and a whole lot more. CFOs have also become prominent as the voice of the company in areas such as investor relations and in communications to the board as well. And in many companies, other functions such as HR, IT, and security are now reporting into the finance or the CFO role. Suffice it to say that the role of finance has broadened and become more strategic in the last decade or so. The problem is that the back-end processes are still manual, which take a lot of effort to get done. In fact, the effort may be higher now since you have things like the gig economy to deal with, different business models, vendors and suppliers are dispersed globally, and there are frequent changes in tax, regulatory compliance, the risk moderations, et cetera, across the globe. Especially if you look at the accounts payable, it is the number one most manual and time-consuming function in finance, and that is according to the Institute of Finance and Management. And that generally stands in the way of finance modernizing, automating, and getting to the highest standard of doing more strategic tasks. So our take is that this most time-consuming activity can be automated relatively quickly and easily and run like a machine with the existing tools that are out there in the market today. At Tipalti, we look at payables holistically, not just the invoice piece or the payments piece, but the end-to-end function and automating those. So as you scale and become global with multiple subsidiaries, global tax and regulatory compliance, fraud, and risk to manage, you won't have to bother about these with the right system in place. And that's where payables transformation comes in. Many finance teams are modernizing the way they manage payables operations. And the reason they're doing it is to help their companies scale and be more efficient, while also balancing that with risk and compliance challenges. It is important that businesses develop and execute sustainable plan to manage costs in order to weather the current COVID-19 storm. So to do this effectively, you have to look at your financial operations and find ways to automate and streamline so that you can deliver more with less, while applying smart cost and working capital controls and ensuring that work from home or WFH productivity is maintained. You also need to ensure that the operational risks that come along with it, even as you lay the foundation to scale, when the situation becomes normal, are taken care of. So with that, we have the second polling question on your screen. So what payment methods do you currently use? So again, it's a multiple choice, and the poll will remain on your screen for 30 seconds. So, okay, moving on, and thank you for responding to those questions anyway. So moving on, so providing a bit of context, having provided a bit of context on the challenges facing finance, I wanted to give you a quick overview of the Tipalti platform. So the wheel or the whirlpool that you see on your screen basically highlights our philosophy that if you put a robust system in place now, you will not outgrow it as you grow. So we provide an end-to-end solution to manage the entire payables operations. It starts with our supplier management and supplier onboarding, which includes 26,000 rules built in to validate and ensure data integrity. We have a KPMG certified tax compliance engine as well. The solution includes invoice processing with OCR technology and machine learning to ensure touchless or seamless invoice processing along with advanced approvals. And we have a 2- and 3-way PO matching if that's what you need. We are a licensed money transmitter and pay across 190 countries in 120 currencies with 6 different payment methods. We have a wide variety of choices to pay across different parts of the world. And we also do sanction screening so that you don't inadvertently pay somebody who's on the OFAC or AML list or a terrorist watch list somewhere. And we do proactive sanction screening from that perspective. And we have an AP reporting, basically, with more than 20 out-of-the-box reports and real-time multi-entity payment reconciliation with your ERP system. NetNow is our early payment solution, and you can pay suppliers faster and quicker without adding to your workload and impacting your working capital. So that, in a gist, is basically the Tipalti wheel. So here is also a sample list of customers ranging from fast-growing startups to established companies across different industries that are benefiting from Tipalti. Our customer satisfaction rate and our customer retention rate is 98%, which is by far the best in the industry. The return on investment includes eliminating over 80% of the payables workload with the current technology. There is a reduction in payment errors by over 66% with all the intelligent data and payment validation rules that are built into the system. And our customers accelerate financial close by 25% or more with real-time reconciliation with ERPs such as NetSuite, Fintact, and QuickBooks Online. And here are some specific ROI examples from our customers. So Touch of Modern, which is a men's fashion company, went from $6 million to $150 million in annual revenue without adding to AP resources. Zola, which is a wedding registry company, handling over 100 million payments in annual payments, I should say, kept their staff at 2 instead of 10 as they're projected as they grew. Foursquare, which is a location technology platform, accelerated financial close by 16 days. And Docker, which is a container technology platform, not only reduced AP workload by over 87%, but also accelerated monthly close by 25%. So next, you will hear from Courtney on how she has benefited from automating her financial operations. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Scott for the panel interview. Scott, take it away.
All right. Hey, thanks, Anand. And good afternoon, everybody. Really appreciate you guys joining us here today virtually. My name is Scott Olson, and I'm the Director of Customer Marketing with Tipalti. And I've spent most of my career in software that's been aimed at streamlining decision-making for finance and operations. And I'm really excited to be joined by a leader who is transforming the financial operations of her company for success, and that's with Courtney Santry. She's really helping lead an innovative business with Sensei. So, Courtney, thank you so much for joining today. I'm going to do a little intro of Courtney and her company. Try not to blush too much, Courtney, and then we'll get into some questions with you about your journey with AP automation. And if you have questions in the audience, please use our questions panel, and we'll get to those near the end of the webinar during our dedicated time. All right, so let's meet Courtney Santry. She's a CPA and the controller at Sensei, which is an ecosystem of sustainable farms and modern well-being retreats, supporting its mission to help people live richer, longer lives. Founded by Larry Ellison and Dr. David Agus, Sensei develops products and experiences that inspire you to grow well. The farms apply modern practices to growing and delivering food that's more nutritious and flavorful, and their retreats are highly personalized wellness experiences. Prior to joining Sensei, Courtney was also a senior accountant at ZipRecruiter, and she also co-founded Signal Financial, which is a finance and accounting consulting service for startups. So, Courtney, welcome. Thank you so much for joining today. I know I just mentioned some highlights of Sensei and a bit about you, but to kick things off, please introduce yourself and tell us more about Sensei and your role there.
Sure. Thanks, Scott, for the intro. Sensei, as you maybe can grasp just from the mini intro there, is a pretty dynamic wellness company, and you don't see many wellness startups with such amazing founders to let us move in a lot of different directions. But we are a wellness company focused in ag and ag tech and health tech. So we're hospitality and agriculture, which is two very different industries, all being brought together through wellness. My role with Sensei, I'm the controller. I started with Sensei about a year ago. They just had started building their executive team. So under the CFO, I was the first accounting hire there. And since then, we've added 2 more to our team. Sensei as a whole is trying to build out an infrastructure of wellness platforms, both, again, on the ag side and the hospitality side of the business. So each of our business segments has software components as well as actual physical locations. And what we've done just last year is really focused on our operations. So that's when we joined with Tipalti and started building out our software platform to make sure that our business was scalable.
All right, excellent. And just how did you get into this role in finance, this career role for you now? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. It's a winding path. You may, expect a CPA controller position to kind of go through a finance degree in school, get a CPA, maybe work Big Four and go into private. I took a very different approach. I actually went to a university for political science, graduated with a political science degree, and first moved to Costa Rica, sold international real estate, followed that with going back to school for finance and accounting, and finding my way to the CPA and getting my CPA. My first role in accounting was actually as a forensic accountant, which was felt very dry, was very dry work. And also I was working in a silo, so I was often working by myself, not surrounded by a lot of creatives. And so I knew my next step was going to be working more in a collaborative environment and in more creative environment, which luckily enough, I was close enough to, Silicon Beach to understand that there were these booming tech companies down here that offered those opportunities. So I got my next role was with ZipRecruiter, as Scott mentioned, where I started out as a very junior accountant, and when I left ZipRecruiter, I was the accounting manager. Starting at ZipRecruiter, the company was 40 people, and it grew to over 1,000 when I left, and now it's a few thousand. So a really big company, but that gave me my first taste of really startup environment and a lean running accounting department. As we all know, I'm sure everyone on this call is somewhat involved in accounting and finances. We're the last department that is funded, usually because we're not revenue driving. So you need to learn the skills and have the software and technology to scale, but stay lean. So after leaving ZipRecruiter, I joined a company called Appetize, which is the point of sale system, working with inventory functionality and multiple element contracts. And since then, I joined Sensei. So it was a long initial path to get into accounting and finance, but it's been amazing. And really having that background of experience in different industries has helped me with where I am today, for sure.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Getting back to Sensei, it really is a dynamic business you're in. How would you describe the business model of Sensei?
That's interesting, right? And like most companies, especially that are PE and VC backed, typically you would see a founder of a company making sure that they were driving in one direction. Well, Sensei is driving in 4 directions, all at the same time. So again, we're really dynamic, but what we do have at our core is our overhead and our executive team, like a shared services. So we have HR and marketing and corporate team and finance, all as shared services between our 2 business segments. So we have our agriculture on one side of the business, where we have a physical farm, a hydroponic farm on the island of Lanai. And we also have a software and engineering segment of our agriculture business, as we're shooting to create the farm of the future, the most modernized farm that we can, using the least amount of resources and getting the most nutritious, high quality foods in the shortest amount of time from farm to table within 48 hours. The software segment of that is really not just a logistical approach, but more so a financial approach, where we're giving real-time data back to farm owners and management. And hydroponically, that provides a great opportunity for us, because you are producing daily, not semi-annually or annually. So that data is continuous. So giving that back to management in a timely manner can really drive profitability. I should mention at this point, which I didn't earlier, but to reiterate, our founders are Dr. David Agus and Larry Ellison. So we have very patient and awesome founders for our company who believe in, obviously from the Oracle standpoint, you see that, believe in technology-driven data. So that's the software component of this. Larry is really interested in building out this farm of the future and bringing profitability back to farms. And then Dr. David Agus is, I'm sure you have seen him on the news a lot lately on CBS, but he is, excuse me, very big in the health industry. He's the leading integrative doctor at USC and driving a lot of the data-driven connections and solutions along with Oracle and collecting COVID-related data right now with the health department and the labor departments and collecting all that information. But he has developed a guide that we're using on our hospitality side of the business, where we invite guests at our hotel, which is also located on the island of Lanai, to have a integrative health experience that's personalized and tailored to each guest. It's an all-inclusive resort where we have teamed with the Four Seasons. Guests arrive on island and they have a 5 to 7 day experience where they learn the Sensei way and are guided throughout the week. And when they leave there, they can also take those approaches and integrate them into their daily lives. And behind our physical retreat, we're also driven by software solutions that provide VR meditation and thermal body mapping and some other really, really awesome approaches to integrating software into the wellness industry.
That's fascinating. Wow, thank you. Well, then getting back to you and on the finance team with this dynamic company, how are you guys really supporting the mission there at Sensei in finance?
Yeah, so back in the beginning when I was at ZipRecruiter, like I had mentioned, we needed to learn how to run a really lean team. And I've taken that with me throughout my career, bringing new technologies into our business structures. And I think that's really important, especially to startups, really any business, to scale and make that functionality accessible to not just the accounting team that uses it daily, but also there's some extension of that to the rest of the company. So the team, our whole company's vision is technology-driven data and solutions to provide better answers. And from our wellness perspective, it's really data-driven and technology-driven wellness decisions in your daily life, not fads and what's popular now. And we also have this massive software backing on both sides of our business. So in our accounting and finance departments, we carry that through, and we really look for best-in-class software solutions for all of our day-to-day operational activities. So from AP to AR to our ERP system. So choosing Tipalti as our partner in the accounts payable segment of our business was one of the best things we could have done. When I started at Sensei, it was just me, the controller. My first hire was a staff accountant. We are growing really quickly, and our volume was getting really high, but with the capabilities that Tipalti allows, we were able to just keep on one staff account for quite a while with the volume. And only recently did we make another hire because our other side of the business is expanding so much for financial reporting. So we're not having anyone else, hired for AP processing because of what Tipalti capabilities have.
That's great. And getting into what was happening there at Sensei when you joined, they already were applying software and technology such that you didn't come into a total manual operation. But in your career, too, you kind of understand the challenges around accounts payables. Give us your perspective on when you're trying to do this in a manual way.
Yeah, what I've seen previously, and correct, I wasn't the one that implemented Tipalti here at Sensei, but I've had the experience in a number of my past roles where we were doing everything really manually. And that's everything from a paper bill coming in to an email coming in with an attachment to, across the gamut, someone slides a receipt across your desk. We've seen it all, but what in the past we were doing is having at least a team of 2 or 3 in some cases just processing vendor bills, and that's just getting them in the system. So you have manual entry, you have audit trails you need to keep track of, physical paper, making sure the coding is correct, the challenge of getting approvers, which we were kind of sending emails around with attachments. And again, the audit trail on that, always difficult to keep track of if you can at all. So we really had some big challenges. It was not only from a people perspective, it was also from just a systems perspective. Getting, the duplicate entry, as we all know, is can be, ridden with errors just because we're human and we have to enter this data in 2 or 3 different places. Making sure there's an approval process, threshold for dollar values, the whole deal, and then come audit time, and we're being asked for all this backup. So just the manual upkeep of records was really difficult as well.
Yeah, that explains a lot. And then now today with Sensei, describe your payables operations. Who are the folks that you're having to pay, and a little bit about the process now today?
Yeah, so because our business, the complexities of our business, we pay everyone from consultants to mom and pop shops to really large businesses. We pay international vendors. We have recurring payments, one-time payments, prepayments that need to be amortized. So we really have the gamut of vendors and payment types that we need to make. Some people that want a manual, physically written check for actual payments out to vendors. Some vendors that are not comfortable with the banking information in a cloud platform. So we're seeing people that are really comfortable with technology, people that are not comfortable with technology, people that are still, providing paper vendor bills versus people that are dropping them right into the Tipalti system. So they just kind of pass through the email chain altogether. So we really have the A to Z of vendors that we're working with still today.
Yeah, and you described a little bit about the workflow there, but how would you tell folks how your AP process works now in a more streamlined way with vendors? Sure. And you're dealing with invoices and your ERP and all of that, plus onboarding new vendors? Yeah.
So again, I'm touting Tipalti here. It has made things so much easier. So in contrast to the manual process where we have a staff manually entering bank and accounting information and vendor details and collecting a W-9 and processing that first vendor bill all manually and trying to get an approval. What's happening now is, I'd say this is 95% of our cases, is a vendor sends us a bill via email attachment as a PDF. We forward it to an email alias. Our staff accountant forwards it to the email alias that feeds directly into Tipalti. And with Tipalti's OCR recognition, that vendor bill is sitting there for you within 24 hours. Our staff accountant goes back into the dashboard, into Tipalti, sees the vendor bill waiting there, and Tipalti has pulled out fields like the invoice date, the vendor name, the due date, the amount, and if it is a vendor bill that's not the first time it's being recognized in the system, it'll also pull your approval process. So if you have thresholds for bills that are over a certain dollar amount, or it recognizes the vendor and it knows, because of the system continues to get smarter and smarter as you use it more and more, it'll say, oh, it's a Verizon bill. I know that needs to go through operations, and it'll send it to those managers in an approval threshold hierarchy to make sure the bill goes to the right people to get approved before getting paid. So what our staff accountant does, reviews it to make sure all the fields have been collected that we need, and just submits it. So that's as easy as it is. It's more of a review process for our staff accountant than a manual data entry process. From there, the bill goes right through the system. And as it's going through the system, everyone along the way is getting notifications via email. So we're not having to follow up and ask people to approve and make sure they're getting paid on time. All of that data is collected in the system and aggregated. So by the time it's ready to be paid, it's sitting in bills ready to be paid dashboard in Tipalti, where I go in or our CFO goes in, clicks the bills that need to be paid, and pays the vendor. Now, on the vendor side, what they've been getting through this process is an email initially to invite them to the Tipalti platform. They click the link, they log in the platform, they put in their bank account information, choose the way they want to be paid, and they also put in all their W-9 information. So you're not collecting 1099 information anymore. That's all in the system. And the bill can only be paid when all of that information is collected, so you know that it's complete. And then once that bill is processed for payment, the vendor gets a notification that they're being paid. So again, there's not those questions going back and forth, and the use of more like administrative work and time from your team, because it's all automated.
Yeah, it fits really well with your philosophy of a lean finance team as well. You guys are maximizing everybody's efforts, but yet you've used technology to really, buffer a lot of the work. So at a high level, then, what would you say are some of the benefits that you're seeing now of automating this workload around payables?
Yeah, some primary benefits for our company, and because we are so data-driven and concerned with being able to scale, what these smart systems allow us to do and allow from a people perspective, I think is the most important that we're looking at, is we're not just hiring someone to process bills. We are able to develop our people to have more skills because their time is freed up to learn more. So as you've seen probably in the past and experience, when a company's growing and you don't have these smart systems in place, your team gets bogged down and they get stuck in a role because they can't grow out of it because the volume is coming in too fast, which business growth is a great thing, but that sometimes can hinder people growth. So instead of our staff accountant then being kind of plugged into an AP role only, she's been able to help develop the system further to become smarter. We've added functionality and features to it like amortization schedules that tie right into our ERP, and further functionality to make sure that we're building on the PO matching soon, and those kinds of things that will further help our processes. So it's giving our staff accountant the experience of building out systems and system integration. And she's not spending more time because the volume's growing. She's able to spend less time as the system grows smarter and work on other projects and be exposed to other things. So we're developing our human capital internally as opposed to spending money on data entry and manual administrative positions. I would say that's the biggest thing for our company. We really want these smart solutions not only to help the business grow and scale, but also to help our people grow and scale.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. And to kind of close out our interview here, what's next for you and the team with Payables operations that you've been able to streamline? You sort of mentioned, you sort of touched on that just now. You've got more, you've got the ability to do more with less, as they say, scaling. What are you going to do with your improvements in AP? How are you going to apply it to your next, challenges that you want to overcome?
Yeah, so I did touch on that a little bit, but the main things here, we're going to continue to grow, and our volume is going to continue to grow. So now that our AP process is streamlined, I would say that's a piece of it. But as I mentioned, there's so much functionality in Tipalti that, a few months ago we built out the amortization piece where we're on NetSuite. We're able to link Tipalti right into NetSuite. And not only that, but now Tipalti has all this other functionality that we're just getting our feet wet with. So the amortization templates that you can link back and forth between Tipalti. And as I mentioned, as our business is growing and scaling, cost controls is one of the categories we look at, of course, in the accounting department. And having a PO matching is going to be the next piece that we jump into. So it still does have to do with AP, but Tipalti's functionality, we've only just brushed the surface of it with the basic AP bill processing and payments. So we're really looking forward to getting our team involved in further integration between Tipalti and NetSuite to make sure that we continue to scale and grow. So those are some of the next things we're looking at. And actually, on that note, with Team Pay as well. So there's a functionality that's going to be a three-part systems approach between Team Pay, which we love and use, to NetSuite, and then NetSuite to Tipalti. So we're excited about that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Courtney. I really enjoyed our discussion here, and I'm going to turn it back over to Anand.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney, for that compelling story. And that's actually a great segue because we have next Niels Schweisen from TeamPay who will talk about his solution. Niels, take it away, please.
Yes, Courtney, I appreciate the excellent transition and the kind words. My name is Niels Schweisen. I'm an account executive at TeamPay. We are a best-in-class spend management platform. Tipalti has been a phenomenal partner of ours for quite some time now, so really excited to be here and dive into what the landscape looks like today and really the value proposition that TeamPay provides and how we ultimately work together with Tipalti as well. So let's get started here. So really the way that companies spend money has changed dramatically over the years, right? So companies are buying more and more than ever before, especially with the rise of the SaaS industry. Everything is being purchased from the bottoms up. All employees are involved these days, and working relationships are more flexible and dynamic than ever before, right? We see huge rise in freelancers as well as work from home and remote situations. Now, what is the spend management process with legacy systems today, right? So today, see if we can get the animation going. The employee spends first. At the end of the month, they will then create an expense report and code it, and then they will get approval after the fact from the manager and then ask for forgiveness. And then it's up to finance to reconcile that and make sense of everything and ultimately get that into the ERP accurately. Now, what kind of problems does that cause? So obviously there's massive policy misalignment, right? Nobody really knows what the spend policy is. It could be in a Dropbox somewhere. There's a huge lack of transparency between the employee, the manager, as well as finance. There's a lot of best guess accounting happening, right? Finance doesn't really know why some things are being spent, so they're categorizing things by just guessing. There's a lot of manual work and email communications and messy handoffs. And on top of that, a lot of hodgepodge spending where there's just a bunch of transactions happening and nobody really knows who is involved or what it's for. So based off that, just out of curiosity here, we'd love to hear what problems out of those you're currently facing at your company. So I'll give you about 10 seconds here. So the problems that we just discussed are the policy misalignment, the lack of transparency, the best guess accounting, manual work, messy handoffs, and hodgepodge spending. Cool. Give it a couple more seconds here. Awesome. Well, it looks like everybody has all the problems, it looks like. So no problem there. So these are some of the most commonly faced problems in the current structure that most companies are facing today. I'm not sure if the results actually process here, but typically it's a myriad of all of them. So really, TeamPay is just a new way to think about employee spending, right? So we manage all types of purchasing, online, offline, catalog, committed, invoice, made by anyone within an organization, from end to end with multiple steps, stakeholders, and systems all in one congregated place. So how does the workflow actually work with TeamPay? So now the employee makes a request to make a purchase and codes everything up front. It is immediately sent to the manager for approval, and then we issue the method of spend, whether that's a purchase order, a virtual card, or a physical card, where they can then make the transaction. And because everything is pre-approved and pre-coded, it is reconciled completely into your ERP in real time. So we are eliminating a ton of the manual work here while giving finance upfront controls and real-time visibility into all company spend. So what does that workflow actually look like? Let's see if this video will play here. Gosh, it doesn't look like it will, so I can talk through it really quickly. So what we do is we have a Slack bot or a web app that any of your employees can ultimately go to request to make a purchase. And the way they do that is we have a very intelligent chatbot that guides them as to how to make the right purchase and do it in the right direction according to your company policy. So this chatbot will ask questions like, what is the vendor? What is the amount? What is the payment method that you'd like to purchase it through? And any other criteria like service period that is crucial for the finance department to ultimately have in their pocket. That request is then routed directly to the manager or whoever is responsible for approving that specific request according to the criteria that you have in your policy. It is then approved, and then the requester is issued either a purchase order number if it's going to be paid by invoice, or a unique virtual card if it's going to be paid by card. And what's great there is that it's all integrated directly not only into the TeamPay web app, but also directly into your ERP. So why customers buy TeamPay today? So before, you have the option of a blank check environment where everybody at the company is at liberty to spend as much as they want. Obviously, what that means for finance is that there's no visibility, there's no monthly statements, CSVs, reports. It can get super, super messy. Or you have a highly bureaucratic process that strangles employees and it doesn't allow them to efficiently make purchases to ultimately facilitate their jobs. Now with TeamPay, we have proactive controls for approved amounts. We have real-time visibility with a control dashboard, and we promote the agility for employees so they can move at the speed of the business and make those purchases accordingly. So really, TeamPay helps you get controls on card and invoice spend. Together, TeamPay and Tipalti automate and unify the three-way matching process in a single dynamic workflow, right? So for any invoice purchases, what we're able to do is issue unique purchase order numbers that gets integrated directly into your ERP. For any online purchases, we can issue unique virtual cards. And for any offline point-of-sale purchases, we can issue TeamPay Go physical cards with the same upfront controls through that same workflow through either the Slack app or the TeamPay web app. So some of our notable clients here, definitely some familiar ones, all who have used TeamPay extraordinarily, and it's really, really helped them not only get control and real-time visibility over their finances, but also completely trim down the actual end-of-month closing the book process. So really appreciate you guys hearing us out here. Obviously, if you have any questions, more than happy to facilitate that or set up a call. I'm sure my contact information will be circulated after this, but feel free to reach out. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Niles. Next, we have a live demo by our Senior Solution Consultant, Vida Izadi. Vida, take it away, please.
Thank you, Anand. If you could advance one slide for me, that would be awesome, Anand.
Sure.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I really do have Courtney to thank for presenting this slide to you, because what she's done is she's taking you to the Chipotle automation solution. And starting from the top, going counterclockwise, she talked about how supplier management has really been streamlined and automated for Sensei. And how that's been done is providing a white label onboarding supplier portal where the vendors are coming in and keying the information that's really important to be captured. And it's clean information, the payment information that you need as clients to be paying the vendors timely, and also making sure that you're paying the right individuals. Along with that, in terms of tax compliance, she talked about that you are capturing the correct tax information. We have partnered with KPMG, and we have digitized the tax collection forms. And what we're doing with that form is that we're bouncing it up against the IRS portal to make sure that the TIN information is correct. And along with capturing the vendor information, the tax information, we're also able to help clients such as Sensei and yourself in bringing in the invoice processing, making that automated, having the workflows in there, doing the two-way, three-way match for the POs, and really guiding and assisting to have less of a manual entry and more of an automation that comes in that frees your greatest assets, which are your people, to do what they need to do, with having the software automation as Chipotle in place. Additionally, as you might know, we did get our start as a licensed money transmitter. So what does that mean to you? We're in 190 countries, 120 currencies. We have 6 payment methods, and we can pay international payments, 60 to 70 different local bank transfers. And along with that, we do provide the possibility of paying the vendors early. And that's not touching your working capital or disrupting any of your AP processes. And last but not least, we're able to give reporting back to you. I know Courtney mentioned that that's one of the top things that they're just scratched the surface of, but being able to get the 1099 prep reports, having that reconciliation back into ERP, that's some of the key information that's needed. Well, how is that all done? How is that made possible? Well, that's made possible by using the Chipotle system and being able to have a system that gives you automation. In terms of what you see in front of you now that I've switched hats, is coming into a system and being able to add the payee, and simply by capturing a couple of key information in terms of email and inviting them to a supplier portal. You probably noticed that Courtney mentioned that in her talk track, and it's really easy because we know studies have been done that individuals, when they go into a solution, within 3 clicks, if they cannot get the data that they need, 70% of people are dropping off. So we're able to add a new payee, do that warm welcome by sending off a welcome letter to them, an email that allows them to log in via our URL. And once they do that, they immediately have a white label portal that's branded to your logo, your coloring. So it makes them feel comfortable. As you scale and you grow into different markets and you go into internationally, this portal is offered in 17 different languages. So when you do the invite to the vendor, they will receive that in this portal in the language that is for them. Once they come in, it's really key information for us to capture their address, who they are, their payment method, and tax information. Simply by keying that information and guiding the vendor through the different steps, once we capture the address information, we're able to do OFAC check. Non mentioned this in the beginning, running it up against lists, sanction lists, to make sure that you as a client are paying the correct actor. Next thing that we do once we capture that data, then based on the country that they're in, we offer the different payment solution, whether it's step-up payment, ACH, wire transfers, check, or PayPal. In the state that we are in right now, we see more and more individuals moving away from the checks and moving to ACH. Is that available? Absolutely. And with that, we're making sure that we're capturing key data that is needed. There's over 26,000 business rules that are embedded in this platform. So the smart logic kicks in, and it doesn't allow you to get past that information until you've keyed in the correct information into the database. And last but not least on here is capturing tax information. We have partnered with KPMG to make sure that we do have the correct information in here for you as the vendor. And we do have a tax wizard that will talk and walk the vendor through the different questions to make sure that they're keying the correct data into the solution. But as you can see, the W-9 information that's presented here, not only are we able to capture the Social Security or the TIN number, bounce that against the IRS portal, we're also getting the legally binding digital signature that's here. And I would be remiss not to point out that this portal is 24/7 hosted by Tipalti, and it's made available. And now, once the information is captured and they have onboarded successfully, they are alerted via an email. You as the client know that they have onboarded successfully. This platform now serves as a way for them, for the vendors, to view their payment history. When they got paid, when are they getting paid? So we're eliminating that back and forth emails, phone calls, freeing up your staff to do what they need to focus on. And one last thing on this vendor portal that Courtney mentioned is that we're sitting on top of the mailbox that Sensei has created, and we're able to ingest the invoices once they come in. That's not to say that the vendor cannot submit an invoice if they chose to do that. So they can supply us with the invoice, and it's all automation. We take that step of manual entry away. Once the invoices come in, they come into the Tipalti portal, and now if I switch hats and let's say I'm the accounts payable on the team for Sensei, I can go in here and view the bills. Once the invoices have come in, I can view all that information here up front, look at the data that I need. And the great thing about this that is a differentiator is that OCR is reading the invoice, capturing the header information and parlaying it to the right-hand side. So as a member of the AP team, all I have to do is further down, look to see if everything is kosher and move on to the next level. Courtney talked about the approval process, that some of the machine learning has kicked in, so it will know that these CloudCom invoices that come in, they go to a certain approver. There are limits in here, so you can see that the system is smart enough that kicks in with machine learning and what we have also in place to be able to allow the accounts payable individual to move quickly or on the fly make arrangements as to whether they need to add a CFO in here. Once this is moved through, then I would click the submit button. The CFO would get an email, and it's available for them to come here and approve this and move on, right? So really, scalability as you grow as a client with us, having all the tools that you need in one step to be able to approve all these invoices that are here, move on to the next method here, which is all the batches are available for you to make payments, and we have filters so you can quickly say, I want to pay these bills and I want to move and prepare the payments. And from there, we go in to the payments. And then very simply, one thing to show on, because I know I'm up against the hour here, but really this, if I can draw your attention to this, because this really does surmise what Courtney has talked about, what I have discussed about the power of this Tipalti software, is being able to pay vendors based on different payment methods, different currency, having that one level of approval, whether it's the controller or the CFO, to click on the last payment of approving all of this and being able to look to see how much funds are required to fund the different bank accounts. And really, I know we didn't do justice for it. I can talk for another 30 minutes probably, but I want to be cognizant of the time because we're coming up to closing the session and turn it over to Anand with any question and answers.
Thank you, Vida. We are almost at the top of the hour, but I think we can take a few questions. So there are a few questions that I would like to combine into a single question, basically around how many currencies and countries do you support for payments? And as Vida showed you, basically that we are a licensed money transmitter and regulated by the U.S. Treasury Department, and we can pay into 190 countries in 120 currencies. We have 6 different payment methods, but we don't stop there in terms of global payments, right? And there are a lot of complexities when you're paying out to overseas that Tipalti is able to handle within a single system. And global payments, as most of you know, can be highly complex, right? Knowing what payment method requires which fields is not easy. And as a quick example, when sending a wire transfer to a country that I'm familiar with, India, requires a lot of fields like beneficiary bank information, ABA or RTN, SWIFT or BIC codes. And there's also an international routing code and international bank account, that some of the countries require. It's generally not easy for payers or payees to get this information. And secondly, to validate whether the information that is being entered is correct and, accurate or not. And Vida, talked about the 26,000 rules that we apply proactively before the payments are made. And all this basically ensures that we reduce the payment errors, globally from that perspective as well. And, there are other things that, we have other solutions like the multi-FX, which makes it easy for our customers to kind of, do currency conversions without the headaches. Not only do we save them money from that perspective, because we are, as an institution, able to negotiate better rates on behalf of our customers, but also basically the time savings that somebody at the controller or a CFO or a VP finance role has to kind of interact with the banks, to get the FX information, negotiate on the best rates, and a whole lot of other things as well. So we simplify that from the multi-FX perspective as well. And another question that I would like to answer, we have only 1 minute, but I would like to take this on, is how much implementation time does it take to implement Tipalti? And Courtney, I don't know if you mentioned that you came in post implementation Tipalti, but do you have an idea? You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I did come in post Tipalti implementation, but our CFO that did implement it said it was a pretty seamless process. So for him, it was transitioning off of him processing bills manually through a different provider and moving on to Tipalti. He could do it by himself with the help of some of the account managers at Tipalti. So he was a one-person job doing it over, maybe a week or so.
That's awesome to hear. And, from our perspective, from the vendor's perspective, I want to kind of like say that the configuration and the setup of the system is generally minimal. And we are a cloud-based system that's built in with the intention that customers can onboard, process invoice, and remit to the system as soon as possible. And we have an implementation team that ensures that the client and the Tipalti team set mutually agreeable timelines and drive the project plan to ensure successful adoption. And you mentioned the timelines. It depends on the cooperation from the customer side as well, and can typically take from anywhere from like 4 to 8 weeks or so, depending on the complexity and the integrations that you require. But we do provide a detailed step-by-step project plan and kickoff and schedule and the whole kind of like the best practices that we have. And we have a customer success manager, basically, and an account manager that is assigned for the implementation as well, specifically. And, like I mentioned in my presentation, our customer satisfaction rate is 98%. And, by far one of the best in the industry. And we take that very seriously to not only get the customers up and running, but who are using the solution to the best of the capability. And we also have a chief customer officer, who represents or reports up to the CEO level from our side, right? So we are actually well over time, and I apologize that we couldn't answer all the questions. And I assure you that somebody from Tipalti will get back to you. With that, I would like to thank our guests, Courtney Santry from Sensei and Neil Schweisen from TeamPay for their compelling stories. And I also wanted to thank Vida Izari for an excellent demo, given the short time that she had, and Scott Olson for the great interview. Most of all, I want to thank all the attendees for taking the time today to attend the event. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day and stay safe.